Hello everybody, and to today's webinar in which I will show you how we can create this organic handle of a hairdryer via the loft command. We will go also a little bit into detail with how to prepare all the different sketches for it and the new snapping function that's actually included into the Shaper sketch engine. And at the end, then I will show you how we can transfer the CAD model from Shaper to a desktop application to do a quick product visualization. For today, the format I would like to use is, instead of starting from scratch, we will actually use the hairdryer, and I will show you how we could use this as a template to reverse engineer all the necessary profiles and sketches. Hopefully, this way it's actually easy for you guys to follow the step-by-step. So let me go to this raw image here. And I positioned the hairdryer perfectly centered onto my world. Let's double check also all our settings again. In units, we're millimeters, decimal for the degrees, and we have all the snapping commands turned on. Before we continue and create the first sketch, I would like to make the geometry we see there right now a little bit more transparent. So when I create sketches behind it or through it, I can see my sketches. To do this, let's go to Tools, then Color. And on the right side, you see a slider. That is actually the opacity slider for that color. With the pencil, I triple click a face that then selects the whole object. Now you can see I can adjust the opacity. This will help a lot. Perfect. Let's click on OK and go back, and we're ready to create our first sketch. So the first sketch we will make is the half profile of the top body. So let's zoom in a little bit, and I will draw a horizontal line. And then on the right side, I will continue to draw a line upwards, a line to the left. And you see the constraints are automatically added to it. And I would like to have a perfect circular shape at the left end. But over the mid part, I would like to have a nice smooth shape too. So I will use actually an arc and a spline curve together. I will create the arc first. So from this point, I will draw an arc and position this endpoint there. And then I make sure that the arc center point is snapped onto the slide. You see, I dragged it away and dragged it back to it. And now I can and reposition this point. If I zoom in a little bit more, you see the grid gets finer there. And to prevent this point to move, I will lock it. Very good. Maybe I will go to the other side and do exactly the same. I'll move this one to there, zoom in a little bit more, and I lock it. So it's done. Good. This line, which I select here right now, is not flush with this edge because there is actually a surface offset we have to do. That's the main reason why this one is a little bit away from it. So now I would like to create the spline that goes in between. And I just saw that this actually moved away. So I will maybe hide this one for the moment. I have to probably just snap this one by hand. No, I did it. Maybe the geometry was a little bit in the way. You see there is no, to the left of the lock, there is the coincident constraint. which makes sure that this point only slides on this line and it can't go up and down anymore. Good. To create this nice fluid shape from this arc to the right line, I can start on the left side, draw a line, and then I click and stop at this endpoint. I would like to make this line tangent to the arc and to the line. So with the pencil, I select the arc and the spline, select tangent on the left, and do the same on the right side with the spline and the line. So what I can do now is I can move the CVs of the spline and also the point of the arc or the point of the spline here, and then massage the curve exactly to the shape I want. I find actually here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 points. That might be not enough. I need one more extra point. So sometimes you will see what you start guessing with is not enough. So we have to create a new curve. So from here again, 1 for the tangent, 1 for more the profile, another 1 for the tangent, and then we stop this one. And I will continue selecting these 2 lines, make them tangent. Here the 2 elements, they're tangent. Zoom in a little bit more. This extra point I have in the middle, now I can move and this way freely shape the curve a little bit. The arc I will make a little bit smaller, and then I can bring the tangent point a little bit in. And there we see now we're actually pretty close to getting a nice circular start at the left, then it flows into the spline, and on the right side it terminates to tangentially to the horizontal line. Okay, very good. I will make a new group. Maybe I call this one simply new. And there is an offset surface between here and there. I do not have to create this actually inside the sketch. I can simply do this via modeling. So what I will do is I will go to Tools and then go to Revolve, select this face, then I select this edge and make a revolve. Nice. To now create a smaller object, all I have to do is select the face, and with the pencil, I drag it down. I can specify actually the amount of the offset I would like to have. So you see the sketch I can keep pretty simple and create the smaller and the bigger object simply by the revolve. And then the smaller object, we push and pull one face, and then Shaper will update the complete object too. I will make maybe a new group. I call this one, let's say, outside. So it's always good if we work with inside and outside objects to give them maybe names. And to the inside, I add this one now. There, very good. Let me hide this one, and we will create another revolve. And this is actually in the outside. Good. So let's get back to what we have here. The next thing I would like to quickly talk about is how do I structure and position all these elements. And let's take a look at these small cuts we have here on the left side. I will actually create the sketch on this position, but then I move it away. And then later, the extrusions, I will move back into this place. This way, if for a moment I go back to this design I have here, you can see that all the individual elements for the sketches are not overlapping and they are easily individually selectable. So let's go back to here. Maybe I would like to want to make the color a little bit even more transparent. There, very good. So zooming in a little bit. And this is a nice curve. We can create this with a spline, 1 point, next point, next point, and a last point. And then we simply push and pull all these CVs till we get the shape we are looking for. And to close the shape, I simply draw a connection line. Very good. The lower part I don't have to draw. I only need to sketch one time. We can later mirror the extruded object over. This might be a moment already where we can now talk for a moment over the new interactive snapping guides. I would like to take this sketch and perfectly move it to the left side. On purpose, I will turn snap to grid off. Then with the pencil, I double click the sketch. You see there are no magenta lines. These are the interactive guides. And you see they specify the top and the bottom point with a horizontal line, and also through the line goes a collinear guide too. I now select this point and with the pencil drag it to the left. You see there is a magenta line. And when I move the sketch along just that line, the whole sketch is perfectly moved to the left side. It's not going up or down. I will adjust this just one step. I want these points to be rather outside the curve. Very good. Good. Here later on the right side, we have to do another cut too. So I will create a sketch as well. In the same manner, I just draw right on the space, and then I can zoom in, select these points, and massage everything so everything lines up the way how I would like to. And you see, creating a transparent color for these objects is very, very useful. Very good. I will draw one line to here, one line to there. I can, oh, I just pressed the pencil. So now I guide the end line to that point. And you see I'm dragging down a vertical guideline. And these 2 points are perfectly vertically aligned. Another nice feature of the interactive snapping. Double click, select this one point, and then along the guideline, I move this one away. And I will turn on snapping to grid again. Very nice. Okay, good. So how do we create the handle? And this is now where we can use the different profiles we have to draw, and then we have to move these profiles into the correct position, and then we can loft them. Before I continue, I would like to have a little bit of a perimeter. So I draw one more line coming from here, click maybe there, there, and I bring this over to there. And then I will adjust everything the way how I need to give me a rough idea how the profile should on the left side look. Very nice. maybe I will move this to the left just a notch so I have a tiny gap, because this curve is more for the flow of the profiles where I have to move them to in the next step. And it's more like a plus minus guide. Good. Let's go back. I will go to the hairdryer final design for the moment. I would like to, for a second, take a look at these cross-section sketches I created. First, it might be good to explain, you see in top view, I drew the sketches for the handle the way how they are actually inside the model. And the sketches for the button or the top body, I drew from the side. So I use different views to easily position the objects and sketches. Because also the object is centered in the world, I can make the sketch being centered. And how do I make, for example, these profiles work exactly or being symmetrical? And that's the next element I would like to talk about. So when we zoom in here, and I have the profile on the right side is made out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. This is actually a closed spline. And I use symmetry constraints to make sure if I modify one point, the other point perfectly follows it. This object is roughly 30 by 34 inches diameter-wise, so I pre-measured this one. So I will go to the hand sketch we have here, the raw file. Then I will go into a top view. I can draw, for example, a line there, a line there, and there. And this is a little bit the way how I implemented and planned out these sketches at the beginning. When I zoom in now, you see that the line has a small white dot, and I can, from this dot, draw another line perfectly at the midpoint. And when I move this one up, you see the whole edge moves up. And this line, which I selected right now, that one is pretty important. This is also centered to my hairdryer. So I will lock this one. And I can draw a line here, a line there, and a line there. I could specify the dimension. Now you see this actually moved or deformed a little bit. So I should first, to prevent this to happen, add horizontal constraints. And when I select these 2 points and then type in 34, it moves actually this way a little bit. Okay. We can also do it with the rectangle. There, perfect. So this is 34. I rather make this 30. This one I would like to make 34. So I have planned out the proportion how big my first cross section is. So that's good. And as a visual guide, I always like at these ends to put down these kind of like bleed marks from graphic design. And here's that other point I move to there. And then these original lines I created for the rectangle, I simply remove. I don't need those anymore. Good. Because via the rest of the lines, the corner ones, I have a good understanding of the proportion I need. here I will unlock this element because I want to move this out just a little bit, and then I lock this one. This one should not move because that is my mirror axis. So mirror axis, what do I mean with that? From the center, I start drawing one point, then I press and press, go to the midpoint again, press, press, press. And now to close the sketch, I move the pencil to the first point. And now comes the symmetry. The way how this works, I select two pair of points. You will see on the left side, the symmetry becomes active. I can click on the symmetry constraint, then it will ask me to select a reference, which is this line. And when I select this point, you see the other one moves. So very good. So let's do this one more time. And symmetry there. Good. Very nice. By taking a look at the corner points, I could, for example, draw myself a small helper line to bring that edge down. And here too, then I can bring this point over and bring maybe these points up. You see, this way I very quickly can create like a cross-section of the way how it should look like and feel. And I only work on one side because the other side of the sketch is updated via the symmetry constraint, so I don't have to think about it too much. So that's pretty good. Good. Now we can, for each cross-section we have, create individual drawings, which, for example, I did in here. I took a little bit more time to measure everything because we have a little bit, not that amount of time. I will show you a different way how we know that sketch we created, we copy and paste and then move to somewhere else, and then in place create, not create, in place we adjust the sketch. So what does it mean? I rotate my view a little bit, and then I will go to transform and move. Select this sketch, and this is now important. I do not want to move this sketch. I want to make a copy of it. So this one, I make a copy, then I move it away. Now I turn copy off, and I will go into the front view and move it into the position where I think this will be very useful. This one I might need twice because the loft actually has to go into the object. There, that is good. And we also have the thicker part at the center of the handle. So I will turn on copy one more time and move this one down, move it to there. And move it back. Now I have two options the way to adjust this. Oh, I had actually copy turned on, sorry. Let me delete this one sketch. Go back to move, select this, select the sketch. Hold on, this is actually difficult to select right now, so I will hide this one and I can show in here what I meant. So with the move command selected, I can move it and I can rotate it, but I can also uniformly scale it. If, for example, the cross-section profile is very much the same. So I will move this one to here for a moment so it's easy to select, go to groups, show my original design again, then I go back to move, select this one and bring it in there, maybe scale this a little bit more. We can see this is actually not big enough. Like this. Rotate around and we see, it's a little bit, it's actually pretty close. That's good. So that's one way how we can very quickly adjust the size of the sketch. I can, however, when I zoom in, double tap the sketch. Let me zoom out a little bit so you see what happened. We moved the onto the sketch plane of the sketch. And when I select the sketch now, you see we have all these points, and I can modify and adjust everything there again. I will draw on this grid another mirror line, and I will lock it. I can then select these 2 points and just redo a symmetry where needed. So when we make a copy of a sketch, the constraints temporarily are removed, and then we can just, as needed, re-enter them. And here I can make this more narrow. I can make this a little bit wider as desired. So there's no problem in, once we moved and copied the sketch, to edit it. We can even rotate the sketch and then do exactly the same. So I go back to the front view, go to the move command, select this sketch, and I will just rotate a little bit. I will select this one and rotate it and then move it to there. That is good. And I will make one copy, move it to here, and then rotate it this way. You see, that is the reason why I created this spline. I try to rotate these profiles so they somewhat touch perpendicular that profile. If they are rotated more like this or like this, that is not ideal. So I want them to be perpendicular to the spline. And just for the sake of demonstration, when I select this sketch, which is rotated, now pay attention to what happens with the grid. If I, with my finger, double tap it, I go into orthographic view. Let's zoom out a little bit and then go into the 3D view. There, now we are in the sketch plane, and we can manipulate and adjust the sketch as needed. Very good. There are 2 rings missing I have to do. I will go into a top view quickly. This is where I am. I will go to here and create myself a circle and position it. And then turn on the visibility again. Go to move. Select this one, copy, move it down, turn copy off. Then I go to the front view. And we're nearly done to do our first loft. Because the thing is, all these profiles currently, they seem to look correct, but if they will be correct, that is a different question. So you might have to adjust these a little bit. There I'm rotating those again, and I scale this one so it fits the need. I extend this a little bit. This looks pretty good. Nice. I will make a new group now. For the moment, maybe I call this one handle. Turn this one off. And we have all those cross sections for the loft positioned, and they are rotated. So if we now do a loft, the flow should be pretty good. So we can go to tools, go to loft, and we can select from the top down, or from the bottom, we select up. So number 1, number 2, this is like a straight loft or extrusion. And here comes what happens if I select the next one and the next one. There we get a nice organic shape. Let's take a look at the front. not too bad. And if I select done, and we see it's a little bit missing. I'm not 100% where I want to be. And the culprit pretty much is this sketch. It is too high. We have to move it down a little bit. So let's do this. I will go and move this one down, maybe rotate it a little bit. There, good. This one we can delete because we don't need it anymore. And we will redo a loft. And this is what I meant. You can start putting down your sketches, and then we will have to see how good are all the cross sections we created. Do we have enough cross sections? Do we have too many cross sections? You see this already starts looking much closer. But now where I'm tapping, that is not the curvature I want. So there I need to have another profile. So I click cancel. I can select this ring, go to transform, move, copy, move this one up, change the copy. We'll make this a little bit bigger, rotate it, move it in like there. And this probably should do it. Okay, so one more time, loft. Select all the individual profiles. Go to front. And to get this perfect, the last two profiles, probably they have to be moved a little bit to the left side. The last one I created is maybe a tick too thin, so I can make this a little bit bigger. So that's the last step I will do, and then we will move forward. So just make this a tick bigger, and there, good. So that should be it. Oh, I missed one profile. That flow is already much better. Good. So that is the process I used to create this handle. And that's the trick here really is try not to have too many profiles. You want to have the least amount of profiles or cross sections. The main reason for that is it makes it easier to work with. And by having not too many profiles, also the flow will be nice and smooth. So the next step would be to take a look at how can we create this offset cut. I will move actually this handle to the inside. So I will make a move object to there, and then I will also there offset it maybe by 4. Yeah, this is good. This is. I was a little bit concerned this might get too thin, but this is perfect. Very good. Then I will hide this one, go to the outside, and then do another loft. This is actually the outside surface I need. Very good. And at this point now, we can take a look at why I created these two sketches and what we can do with them now. I make a new group, select this part, rotate, and then I extrude this one really high. go to the move command, double click. I move it down so it perfectly cuts. That is good. Then I will look into top view and move it to the right and position it where I want it to be. There. On the bottom, I have the same detail, so I have to mirror this over. One very easy trick is we need to have a mirror face. Could quickly draw a rectangle, then I select the rectangle and draw it down, because this way now I created a face which is perfectly centered in my world. Then I will go to the transform, mirror, double click the object, click next, select copy and select that face. And you see it makes a copy to the other side. Click done. This one was just a helper. So I clean this up and delete it. Very good. To save myself the work, I make a preliminary copy. So both I selected, go to the move command and copy and just move it back. Currently I use the grid snap again, so it's very easy to reposition them if needed. Great. So with these two elements which I created, we can cut an opening into the outside body here. To do this, we will go to Tools and then Subtract and say from this object, please subtract these two. So they're cut. And if we show the inside, you see there is the other part, which later we will join to it back. And that's basically the way how you can create these offset surfaces. We have to do the same with this element. So I make this one nice and big, go to transform. Then I move this one up to make sure that the whole object will be in it. I go to a top view, a front view, and I will move this one over to roughly where I need it. Let's say like there. Very good. Okay. So this object I will cut from both the top part and the handle. So I go to Tools and then I will go to Subtract these two, or from these two, please subtract this volume. There. And again, let's show the inside. And there we are. And you see, there is the offset surface. To finalize this quickly, what we can do is join everything together. So with the union, I will join this object, this object, this object, and that one. And then we have hard edges, which we can select and start rounding. So here, this does not work yet. And that is because we did not yet round those edges. So I will fillet those nicely and do the same here. Okay. And with these sharp points rounded, now I have these transitional arcs. And when oh, 1 second, application is working. Oh, I made this too big. If I fillet this one, Maybe I select a different one, press it over, and I'm not getting the dialog to fill it this. There we are. There. 1 millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters. So it's nicer. Very good. Okay. Can also select this edge, and let's select this edge. I want to round those two, maybe by 2 millimeters to 2. So it's nice and consistent. Okay. We are getting close to the end of the time. So let me go back to this design where I have everything ready. There's one element I wanted to quickly point out, how I recreated the sketch for the buttons. There's actually a good example to show when you want to re-engineer or reverse engineer an object, how we can use the constraints to, in a sketch, position a sketch and rebuild exactly what we need. So I know I have a line there, a line here, I have a line there, and a line in the back. So these two lines I would like to be parallel. So I select the parallel constraint. And I know actually by default, maybe let's say 115 degrees. This is nearly close. So how do I now get everything to where I want it to be? The whole sketch I can select, and I select a point and move it to there. So now I would like to rotate it. How do I do this? This point, let's assume, is correct. So I lock it. Now I can select this point, and because that one point is locked, you see I can rotate my sketch. So the upper one is good. Let's lock this one. The upper one we unlock. So I'm able to bring this one down a little bit and lock it. And that pretty much was the way how I rebuilt and found all the dimensions for the sketch here with 15 and 117 degree, the inner angles for the corners, 25 millimeters is the length of the button. So by simply starting to draw a sketch and rotating the sketch by always having some constraints already in place, the 115 degree angles for the corners, and locking one point. So then I can rotate always around the locked point. To bring this webinar to an end, so I can also go into the question and answer. How do we bring this over now to a desktop application for a rendering? One very quick way is I hide everything that I don't need. I build everything here right now, so it's just one object. So this I will export. To do this, I can go to the export function, then save as, STL, step, etc. Select STL. This is now important for rendering. You don't want to go too low. This is actually really good maybe for some very quick and low res web presentation, but for good rendering, we rather want to go too high. And I build everything as one object. Now, if we build everything as separate objects, for example, the buttons are separate objects and they're all in individual groups, we can then turn on save each group into a separate file. So we can then, in the render software, load all the individual files, which makes it very easy to select them and then assign materials to them. To bring them to the computer, we can use Mail, or simply when you're on a Mac, or PC also, save to files, which is what I used primarily, and then select the iCloud or Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever you use. So at this point, let me quickly switch over to the render program and show you a quick introduction what it would take to and then create a rendering. The program I use and I teach professionally too is called Blender. It's a free 3D modeler for polygon-based objects. So it's not very precise, not like Shaper, but it's very good for rendering. And it's free. That's really nice. Here is the hair dryer. And when I zoom out a little bit, for those who are not familiar with it, these two objects I'm selecting, and these are actually lights, and I have a backdrop. So when I approach product rendering in my courses, I always teach my students first actual photography with a camera and lights, and then we rebuild the way how we did a photo exactly in the render software. In this way, quite often, the renderings will look a lot more believable because we're not guessing, we're actually really using real life photography, just digitally. And with these lights placed, if I go now to the real-time version, we have a reflective bottom part. You see there are highlights on the body. And what's really nice about those upcoming real-time engine called Eevee is when I select my hairdryer. Currently, this is one object, and I added different materials to different parts. The back part, I would like to be blue. And now I can decide, is this a smooth material? Is this a rough material? Is this a reflective material? And I have sliders for reflectivity. So you see how reflective this one is. And I can make this reflectivity a little bit more blurry to, for example, give the suggestion that the surface is slightly rough. If I go to the front part, I can give this a material too. And for example, keep this more reflective and clean. I have selected the buttons too. Can make this button more darker, but also give them a reflective color too. We have an air vent. We could map a texture onto it, or in this case, for a quick exercise, simply say this is covered with a metallic material. So instead of specular, which is just plastic, we turn on metallic. And if we then rotate the view, you can see that it shows a reflection of my environment. And even these lights, which I placed, I will select them for a moment so you understand, or you can see how this works. If I move them around, you see even the illumination and the reflection on the object changes. So this is just a very quick introduction, obviously. We just wanted to bring this one up just in case people are interested in doing maybe a webinar for digital rendering more in detail. So please let us know. So we would basically give you then one finished object, and then I would run you through the webinar how we export the individual parts, how we would create the materials, set up the scenes, place lights, and then hopefully also do a rendering. And this basically concludes everything of today's webinar.